Hey guys, Tiffany Ofili Porter here, where I discuss all things life after sport. As you can see, we have a special guest here on the video. And if he looks familiar, then you have good eyes. He is my husband's twin brother. This is Joe Porter. And this video, you are in for a treat. My brother-in-law is a former world-class athlete. He played football in college. He ran track in college. He coached track post-collegiately, and most impressively, he played in the NFL. He has transformed that expertise into a very profitable business, iteachspeed. So in this video, we're going to kind of compare and contrast his journey as a business owner and my journey as an entrepreneur in the content creation and influencer space. We'll be giving advice to aspiring business owners and entrepreneurs, as well as just kind of some things that he's learned along the way.
Definitely.
So you guys are in for a treat. If that video sounds interesting, make sure you continue to watch.
Balancing motherhood with medals on her chest. She's proven her greatness, knows no rest, representing the countries with pride she stands.
So first and foremost, Joe, can you tell people what exactly is iteachspeed?
iteachspeed is a service-based business that I run out of Central New Jersey. I got started back in May of 2018. And what I do is back then, I would meet clients on a local field. I would start with one person, and then I would do group sessions. And then after COVID, we matriculated more to doing remote training, hybrid training. And essentially it is what it sounds like. I mean, I'm a teacher by day. So what I'll do is, I'll kind of model it off that. I have a lesson plan. And I think I have a pretty good rapport with the kids. So we combine those two things and try to help them get faster, achieve their goals.
I love that. And a couple of things, I'm going to put all of his information in the description box because he talked about how he does it in person, but you also have virtual training. So this is something that if you're looking to get faster as an athlete, and you do track, you do football, you do basketball, you do all sports.
We do lacrosse, we do tennis, golf, hockey,
all of the above.
Volleyball, whatever, football, of course, whatever you need.
So definitely check him out. Even if you're not in the Central New Jersey region, you certainly can tap into his level of expertise. So
Absolutely.
What inspired you to start your speed and agility business?
For me personally, I saw like a lot of like misinformation out there. You know what I mean? It started with track and field because a lot of times, the old timers, the old coaches, like they'll have like the training pedagogy and methods that they had when they were running. You know what I mean? As we know, training, diet, nutrition, they've skyrocketed even like in the last 5 years.
Yes.
So I saw like a lot of bad training out there, and I really want to kind of help the kids, achieve their goals. And the primary reason, however, was like I don't feel like training should be something that's accessible to people with money, and people who are, say without economic means, can't get quality training. So that was like the big motivating factor to help out, the little guy essentially.
And I love that. We're going to talk a little bit more about kind of how you measure success, but it sounds to me like a big part of your business is having impact.
Absolutely.
And helping the next generation.
Absolutely.
And, kind of similar to my influencer business, even though they are very different, he's offering a service. I more so cater to an audience and give kind of like a different level of product, I guess you will.
Right.
But to me, impact has always been the goal.
Absolutely.
Like when I'm creating this video, I'm not here to flex about myself or flex about Joe. I'm trying to serve the people who need servicing, if you will, or the people who can benefit from any type of video that I create. So that is one way that we are similar. And I really respect that because I think seeing your passion, I've actually been to his training sessions before. You guys know I used to be a professional athlete for years.
Yeah.
He's extremely passionate about what he does. And you can see that the kids can feel it. And when you're like faking the funk, people can feel that inauthenticity,
They know.
So it definitely is something to just kind of keep in mind when you're looking for, a trainer or a coach, or even if you want to follow somebody's journey as an influencer, just keep it real, be authentic, because people can always feel that.
Absolutely.
Was there a specific moment in your experience, was there a specific moment or experience that made you say, I'm going all in on this business?
For me personally, absolutely. I mean, the barrier for entry wasn't very high. You reach like a cell phone, a social media account, and like a field, and you kind of walk out there and do it. But for me, again, seeing like a lot of the athletes who don't have like access to like, these big fancy facilities, these air conditioned, this and that, right? I said, you know what, like this is something that I do want to like put all my eggs into, put my heart and my soul into. And it's been successful. Like we've had hundreds of clients. Youngest like 4 years old, oldest is 53. I 53. And
I love that.
Yeah, no,
he does not discriminate. Everybody can benefit from my team.
So as long as you have like the passion, desire, like we'll be there to help.
Yeah, certainly. And I think for me, kind of a little bit similar, I felt like as I was transitioning out of sport, I wanted to kind of know what my next move would be. And I know that I have a passion for creating. Yes, I am a pharmacist by trade, so I have that math and science brain, but I was looking for a creative outlet, but I also wanted to make an impact. And I wanted to kind of dispel this myth around sports retirement having to be scary, like you can't have life after sport. And that's kind of my tagline for a reason, that I wanted to show people that life after sport can be fruitful, it can be enjoyable. You can go out there and just live your best life even as you step away and transition out of sport.
Absolutely.
So definitely kind of similar to you. I wanted to like put all of my eggs in this basket and really explore what could come from being a creator. And I must say, if I'm gonna be real with y'all, yes, there's a lot of financial potential in this space as well. So it is always special when kind of impact and like, I guess that recognition kind of align in that way.
Absolutely.
So it certainly does make a difference. So for both of us, Joe, and we kind of talked a bit off camera, starting meant stepping into uncertainty. How did you deal with self-doubt or criticism early on?
I think because of my athletic background, it plays a lot into it, right? And you know what I mean? Like going to hostile areas, playing in front of, let's say, 70,000 people, or in your case, the whole world type thing, performing from the whole world. Yeah, like you're used to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have any haters or any people kind of heckling from the crowd, like you're not really doing a good job.
True.
You know what I mean? So kind of having that background, you know what I mean? Like it's a make it or break it type of thing. Definitely something that propelled me. And not to say that you had to be a professional athlete or a divisional athlete to kind of have that experience, right? Like even in, high school athletes or having to deal with setbacks, like that's part of being an athlete, like injuries and things don't go your way, having to get up the next day and do it again.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's the sole quality I have. Like I don't have the talent, you know what I mean?
As far as, like the talent. You don't get as far as he got.
Listen,
without having
I wasn't
talent.
born with like, you know what I mean? An extreme intelligence and like math and science like yourself and things like that. I just like the only quality I had that was, worth anything was my perseverance. I just would keep going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'll cry in the car ride home, but so the next day I'm going to get back up and kind of get out there. And that's kind of how I've, had everything, college, NFL, my wife, you know what I mean? I just keep going. I just won't quit,
Perseverance and having that thick skin, it sounds like you're saying, not letting the criticisms like stop you.
I mean, it's gonna get you a little bit. People kind of, Joe Porter, you da-da-da-da-da. Like, one time we were playing the Patriots at an awful game. And I was getting roasted in the media. You know what I mean? It was awful. But like, you're gonna have a moment. Like in NFL, we had a 24-hour rules. So you feel bad about it for 24 hours and then you gotta pick it up. Because the truth is, most people are gonna forget about it.
Yeah.
Like they're not thinking about you.
Yeah.
Like they'll give you a time of day a little bit and after that, they'll go about their own lives.
On to the next.
Like, you thinking about it, just move on to the next thing.
Never get too caught up. And one thing that my husband, who was also a professional athlete for years, and I would always say, you never let your highs get too high, nor your lows get too low.
Absolutely.
And that translated on the field and now in our entrepreneurial efforts as I teach speed and even in my content creation business. If there's a month where I ain't got no brand deals, what am I going to do? Give up? Or do I have the big picture view to continue to push on? Because the next month, you might have your first 5-figure month like I did just 2 months ago. And that is a very big milestone. So you have to just keep on pushing and just putting your best foot forward.
Absolutely.
So how did your first year in business look? If you could redo it, what would you change?
Well, the first little portion, wherever me a year or two, like you got to kind of take what you can get.
Yes.
Right. So my first client, I would train this joker hard. For like 2 hours for $30.
Yeah.
So the drive over there cost me $10 in gas. After taxes, I made what, like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I didn't make any money, but like I was going hard because that's the only person I had.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But as this person has success, like word of mouth is really, really important in our space. So like if they have a good experience, like they'll tell their teammates, right? Because nice guys and nice girls are on team sports. So like they'll go back and tell their lacrosse, the football teammates, Joe Porter did a good job, and then you'll get more. It'll open up like that. Financially, though, my wife hates when I tell the story, but the first year, I tell you, 100% transparency, 100% transparency. The first year, I made like, we'll say $25,000 in like gross revenue. Whatever.
Okay.
Yo, I spent like $25,000 in food.
That's fair.
It was so bad. It was because I'd be driving to these sessions.
Yeah.
I'd be training the kids hard. I burn my calories, so it'd be like Popeyes, $20, Chick-fil-A, $30, and the same day, $30 the same day. I go buy some sneakers. At the end of the year, I'm looking at my income. Like I did all right. But where is it? You know what I mean? And then that was the first year. My wife was like, "Babe, you got it. This is crazy."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
and
it's a learning experience.
Everything,
now, right?
taxes,
the
posting, everything, right? You got to take into account your gas mileage. So if it took me an hour to get there and an hour to get home, actually it's 2 hours just driving.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You got to factor those things. Yeah.
All of that is like, that's funny you said that, 'cause I have very similar experience. My very first paid brand deal, I don't really necessarily talk numbers, but I'm gonna keep it real with you on this video. My very first brand deal, it was with a linen company, and they paid me $300 for a reel. And I remember that was probably one of the most coveted $300 I ever got, because it like to me signified like, okay, I'm here in this space.
I'm in here.
And now 3 years later, I would not accept a deal for $300 for a reel because my level of expertise has grown, my level of understanding of the industry has grown, my skill set has grown.
Absolutely.
You've learned, you've grown, you've evolved in that space where I wouldn't entertain that, but yet a few years ago, it meant so much to me.
Right.
And it's not even necessarily the money that it represents, it just represents the growth in your business,
Absolutely.
right? So I do think that that's something to consider regardless of what your future business or your current business looks like. Where you start is not how you're going to end, but you have to be willing to take those smaller deals, those unpaid deals, those $30 deals, make those mistakes, learn from it to get to where you want to go eventually in your business.
Absolutely.
Certainly. Next question, Joe. What were some misconceptions that people had about your business in the beginning? I know for me personally, as a creator, people didn't always take it seriously. People still don't always take it seriously. More on that later. Did you deal with anything similar?
Yeah, you can't teach speed. It's like the common misnomer or biases. That speed is something that's genetic. You can't improve at it. And hold on. If you can get stronger, if you can get smarter, why can't you get faster? And of course, the science and the data proves this, right?
Yes.
Biologically speaking, everyone has I can't make you maybe like Usain Bolt type thing. You have a ceiling, you know what I mean? But the truth is, most people aren't anywhere near their full capacity. You know what I mean? So fighting that prejudice, that speed is something that is kind of set at birth was the biggest thing. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing probably that comes to mind immediately was I had to be next to you to train you, right? I had to be right next to you. Because the truth is Tiffany, Jeff, you know what I mean? Cindy, whoever the person is, they all have their own kind of, formula or recipe, to improve their performance, right? And each person is different from the last. We might be similar, but you might need extra couple sets of that. You might need more intensity of that. So whatever the case is, right? So that is something that I kind of have to kind of, work with, when I'm trying to market my business, right? Listen, we're gonna help you, you know what I mean? Just you with something that is unique to you, you know what I mean? They want things they see on Instagram, they want things that they see on you. Well, that looks like a cool drill, I wanna do that. Well, that ain't for you,
right?
You know what I mean? That's the hardest thing, kind of we'll tailor it to you, but if you don't need that, we're not giving you that, so that's the biggest thing.
And being that I was an athlete for so many years, I do respect that because I've had a few coaches in my day, and I think the best coaches are able to identify ways to tailor a specific training session to you and your needs, and to be able to adapt. So if you see an athlete is kind of flourishing in one area that they were once struggling with, how do you adapt as a coach to go and push them to just be a better holistic athlete? And that is one thing that I've seen personally that kind of separates I Teach Speed from other coaches, is that humility to be able to tailor his sessions to a specific athlete, and then more importantly, being humble enough to receive feedback and continuously learning. So the same way I'm continuously trying to keep up on trends as a creator, Joe in his business is always trying to learn the newest stuff. He will call my husband, who also has a bit of a coaching background, and ask him questions. He's not too big to consult the best track and field coaches in the country for their expertise, and just having that collaborative approach, I think definitely does kind of separate you from the competition. And kind of going back to misconceptions, I can certainly relate to you there, being that I come from a very Nigerian family. If you're not a doctor, lawyer, engineer, then what are you doing? So even to this very day, when I explain to my mom that I create content for a living, I'm like, Mom, look at these receipts. I'm actually making money. She's like, get out of my face. You're not working in the pharmacy. You're not working. And you have to kind of just maneuver that. And that's okay. Not everybody's going to always understand your vision.
100%.
Now, when my business is a multi-six-figure business, I guarantee you they're going to understand it then.
Amen.
You feel me?
Yeah, amen.
So definitely something to consider as you are on your journey, or as you are kind of striving for whatever it is, in your life.
Right.
Okay, so Joe, kind of transitioning to building a brand, can you kind of speak to how you built your brand and you gained trust in your space?
You gotta start small, really small, right? You gotta get the trust from one person, and then 2, and then 4, and then 8, and then 16. You gotta start very, very small.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, sometimes I fall into this kind of trap where I'm already thinking about the big picture. I want to be here.
Yeah.
But you gotta start here. You know what I mean? So you gotta do right by one person first.
Yes.
So if they call you gotta answer the phone. If they email you, you got to email them back. They text you, got to text them back. You know what I mean? You got to meet them where they are. Right? And then, because like I said, word of mouth is very important. So if you have one person, say from, let's say, New York City, right? New York City is a big market, obviously, right? You have one person, chances are this person probably knows other people.
Yes.
Right? Yep. Maybe 2 other people in the same space as them. You know what I mean? So they'll refer you again back to that person, and then your name will grow, right? But if you have bad, even if say for instance, it's not good training. Let's just say that, right? I had a coach tell me one time, he was like, if an athlete believes in the training, even if it's not good, it'll still work for them because they believe in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That placebo, that mindset.
Yeah, they'll believe in it and they'll trust you. Right. And even if say they don't really maybe they'll still trust you.
Yeah.
Right. So trust is very important. You gotta you said earlier, people can tell we're not being authentic.
Yes.
So if you go for them, if you care, you know what I mean, about your business, about your brand, like you'll do those small things with details that kind of helps them out. Like you'll show up to maybe a meet or a game. You know what I mean? I saw you play, you could do this a little better. Yeah. Like show that you care, and that'll go a long way.
Going that extra mile, going above and beyond. I will say, I remember one of my earlier campaigns, it was with a, let's just say like influencer platform, if you will. And it was a small deal, it was $450. I remember those early brand deals because they meant so much to me. Yeah. And I remember I went above and beyond on the deliverable. So for example, if they asked for a reel and a story set, I did a reel, I did a story set, I did a carousel. Like I went above and beyond, so much so that she kind of sent me an email like, Tiffany, this was incredible. Thank you. Like you didn't have to do that. And it was a very small campaign, but I think the way you show up for a $450 campaign, it should be the way you're going to show up for a $4,500 campaign because you know what you're building towards. And that same brand campaign management, she has then referred me to several other brand deals down the line, and it's been an amazing relationship with that particular company. So I'm just saying all that to say the way you show up for those small ones really does make a difference eventually as you grow. And then word of mouth, that they know you're an easy coach, you're a present coach, or you're an easy influencer to work with, they're going to be more inclined to think of you on the next opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
So it just goes back to, regardless of where you are, regardless of what your industry is, the way you show up daily is kind of how people are going to remember you and treat you in that space.
Amen. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So Joe, what was your biggest I made it moment so far, if you've had one, period, in your business?
Oh, in business? I got a few actually. I had this client one time, Penn State wide receiver, Penn State, I know it's rival there. Jahan Dotson. So he ended up being a first round pick to the Commanders. Okay. And he was most recently with the Eagles. And he caught a touchdown pass, everything like that in Super Bowl. Okay. Like I didn't have him for too long, but the fact like that, my name got big enough was like, okay, this guy wants to work with you. I was like, oh my gosh, like
that's dope.
Kind of a big deal.
That is a very big deal. And for those of you who don't speak sports talk, essentially he trained somebody who went on to play in the NFL, and it just is such a full circle moment being able to pour into him and help him on his journey in whatever capacity. So that I can imagine. Congratulations. Definitely a big
but like that, seeing those small moments, like seeing a guy go from a 4.9 40 to like a 4.5 40, or seeing a guy that actually mentored him since he was in high school. He was like a 5 flat 40, he goes like a 4.3, signing with the Indianapolis Colts. Wow. Like that was like things like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he didn't make it too long, but like seeing like the possibilities was like, wow, I can do this.
And again, for those of you who don't speak sports, going from a 5-second 40 to a 4.3 40 is an astounding improvement. Like it's a big deal. Like that's just like a testament, I guess, in a very concrete way. Yes. So the improvement that this kid made based off of how Joe poured into him. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I can definitely relate. I think for me, it's very easy to have imposter syndrome in this space because, there's influencers who have 20,000 followers who are making bank. There's influencers who have 1 million followers who are making $0. And there's just such a wide range of what I made it looks like in this space. But for me personally, I've talked about it before. If you haven't checked out my most recent video where I did my computer unboxing and just kind of talk about the growth of my business, make sure you check that out. But I think having that 5-figure month, that was a big deal for me because, I mean, again, there's influencers who make $10,000 for one post. I'm not there yet in my business. One day, by the grace of God, I will be. But to be able to say that I did that based off of like this like little birth child that I created back in 2022 when I retired from track was a big deal for me. And it kind of helped to quell that imposter syndrome that you sometimes experience in business.
Absolutely.
All right, Joe, kind of switching gears, let's talk hustle, okay? Right. What's one part of your grind that people don't see behind the scenes?
Oh, probably the effort that goes into making a workout. Right? Because like I said, each person is unique unto themselves. Yes. So like if this girl, for instance, I was making a workout this morning, she's going to college, she's a 100 meter, 200 meter sprinter, right? She doesn't have access to like a weight room per se. So you gotta be very creative. You know what I mean? Okay, well, how many dumbbells do you have at home? Yeah. Like what do you have in your backyard? And you gotta be very careful and just do everything like meticulously. So like I'll be like, hey, Desi, the workout's finished. To her, she's at 9 o'clock in the morning and okay, whatever. But it took me like a couple hours to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like those small, because everything has to be just right. Yep. A extra rep, too long here, you risk injury. A 1 rep too short, they might not see like, their full stimulus. So it's like, you gotta be like that part. Like, okay, this person, Tiffany Ofili, 5'11", 100 whatever pounds, 100 meter hurdles. Okay. I gotta like really kind of focus here. Like everything has to be just right. Yeah. And take into account like the strengths and the weaknesses. Okay, she's weak in her lats, so she might need an extra set of single eccentric lat pull down or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the preparation. of making the actual workout plans.
And that's the thing. People always see the glitz and the glamour and the glory, but they don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And to be honest, I don't coach, nor do I have any desire to coach, but I can imagine the level of preparation it takes to create that tailored program that we spoke about for each individual athlete, because not everybody is the same. Similar in the creator space, I think one thing people don't realize is the level of detail that goes into creating content, but more specifically creating brand sponsored content. Sometimes you'll see, you know, a 1 minute reel and be like, oh, these influencers are getting paid $2,000 for this post, and it's so easy to create. Until you go and realize that you have brand briefs, you have deadlines to make, you have specific messaging that you need to include in a very creative and authentic way that's going to be engaging. You have to think about current trends. You have to think about trending audio. You have to think about reshooting, because I mean, there are times, especially when they're paying you, you know, upwards of $3,000, $4,000 for a deal. You need to make sure that if they tell you to go and reshoot the thing, you got to reshoot the thing and start from scratch, because you may have missed the messaging, or you may have missed a certain hashtag, or you may have missed a certain FTC guideline disclosure. Like, there's a lot of meticulous things that go into creating content specifically for a brand deal that people don't necessarily realize. And in the beginning, it can be a little bit tough, but as you kind of work that muscle and you continue to kind of just grow in your industry, it becomes easier and a little bit more second nature. But I agree, similar to you, people don't realize that a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes. It's just not as easy as sometimes it may look. So when you see somebody out here grinding in their business and you want to go and support a small owned business, just know that it's not always as easy as it seems. They might make it look easy, because when we're athletes, we make it look easy, right? But again, a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes, and just take that into consideration and give people grace kind of where they are.
Absolutely. Let me ask a question.
You want to ask some questions?
Yeah, question. All right, here we go. It's I Teach Speed interview now. How would you advise people who are just starting in the influencer space to begin? Like, if they want to kind of do what you do, like the necessary steps to take?
That is a very fantastic question. Okay, Joe, you're gonna put me on the spot because I did not prepare for this. I think first and foremost, identify your why. And I know it sounds cliche. It's like, no, give me concrete stuff, and I'll get to that in a second. But identify why are you doing this? What do you want to do? Is it just to make money? Because honestly, in my opinion, if that's your only motivation, it can be a slow burn. It might take you a while before you are seeing those 4-figure brand deals. And are you okay with putting the work in? So number one, identify your why. Number two, build an audience. You know, yes, there is UGC content, which is user-generated content, which is like somebody who creates content and you don't post it on your platform. If you have a smaller platform, you just sell that content to the brand. But you know, it's more lucrative if you have a platform, if you have an audience who actually cares about what you're saying and trusts you, okay? Don't go out there and buy followers. Don't buy subscribers. It doesn't yield to dollars. It doesn't do anything. So that's another thing to consider. And then I think also just focusing on impact and serving your audience, and the brand deals and the opportunities will come. So when you're creating content, I talked about it in the beginning, it's not about me. It's about how can I serve my audience? Why would you pay me with your time to watch this video if I'm not offering you any value? If it's just me flexing, and you know, a lot of people, and if that's your style, that's your style. That's not my style. Just showing off your material things or flexing or doing this, but yet there's no level of value offered, then I personally don't resonate with that type of content. So I don't want to create that type of content. So I think all of those things, and then just kind of being consistent. You can't post one day, be ghost for 3 weeks, come back and think that a brand is going to trust you to work with you, because if you can't even show up for yourself in your organic content, why would I throw money behind your brand to kind of publicize my brand? It's like a symbiotic relationship where it has to be mutually beneficial. So I think all of those things, I have talked a little bit about, you know, being a content creator, about how I have my very first brand deal this May, and I'll link some of those videos in the description box, so make sure you check those out. But I think all of that really does kind of contribute to you becoming the influencer that you want to be one day.
There you go.
Yeah, Joe, this was a really good interview. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
I think, let me know down in the comments if you guys would want us to do a part 2. He's here in Kansas, by the way, visiting us from having our baby. Thank you guys so much for being here. His wife Joy is here. Their 2 children are here, and we're just so grateful to have their support. But we can maybe do like a virtual, like Zoom interview if that's something that you guys are interested in. I have a whole list of other questions that I didn't even have a chance to get to, because I didn't want this video to be too long. But like I said, I appreciate your time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything that resonated with you the most, and I respond to everybody in the comments. Let's have a conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.